Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bitter Draft. My name is Phil. In today's episode, we are going to be discussing debt fueled mass migrations, why the governments are seemingly committed to bringing in hordes of immigrants from all over the world into the Western world, put them on benefits, pay for everything, and force the native populations to foot the bill. And it seems this is the policy no matter who gets elected. Why is this happening? And I actually have an answer, and I have a request. If any of I know I have many UK viewers, if you could try and get this video into the hands of the Lotus Eaters, because the Lotus Eaters, particularly Carl Benjamin, are constantly asking the question, why are the politicians so unresponsive to the native populations, and why are they so committed to this? I'm going to answer that question right here today. So, before we begin, if you wish to support the show, there are links to do so in the description, and you can reach me on the comment sections of Rumble and YouTube. You can email me at thebitterdraft@gmail.com, and you can reach me on X at thebitterdraft as well. All right, let's begin. Mass migrations. So the Western world is noticing a surge in immigration from countries, and this has been going on many years. And these countries, many are considered incompatible cultures to the West. They have different concepts of tribalism and community. They have different concepts of religion. They have different concepts of the woman's work, the woman's role in the world. They have different concepts of should homosexuality be tolerated or not, and so on and so on and so on. Right? And those coming in, as soon as they come in, they tend to use public services at much higher rates than the native citizens paying into the system. So these recent arrivals are suddenly sucking out of the public systems. And as an anarcho-capitalist, I have views on having public health care or public Social Security in general anyway, because I think it attracts people who are just want to sit and live off of the system. But that's a point for another day. The point is, even if they do exist, these people have not paid into the system, yet they are coming in to immediately plop themselves onto the system and benefit from it. And so the debt of the host countries all over the Western world is at the breaking point, and yet politicians are completely hostile to stopping immigration. Why is this happening? Why are the politicians completely committed to expanding healthcare, expanding public access to healthcare and other public services to all these recent arrivals, and who never voted for them? They might vote for them in the future and they become citizens, but why is this happening? Why is a nativist politician seem to be impossible to get? And even when you do elect a politician who promises to take care of the situation, he immediately backtracks and says, well, I guess we have to keep importing them forever. So to answer this question, we actually have to go back and look at what we are using for money. The money is the key to all of this. There is no such thing as fiat money. I know there's a myth that we somehow in 1971 we somehow went from a gold standard to a fiat standard. We did not, and I don't have time in this video to cover the mechanisms of that. If you watch the first 10 of my videos, you will understand. Each video is only about 15 minutes long, so if you give me about an hour and a half, you will understand what this current system is and why the money is completely fake. Now, all extant currencies are unbacked gold derivatives. Gold is the underlying money, and the notes we are using for money they have a history back to gold, but that you obviously cannot exchange them at whatever the fixed rates were back in the day. But they are gold derivative currencies. Now, an unbacked currency is worthless, but to keep it from collapsing, they use debt. The debt is the mechanism that the central banks use to keep the currencies from being just totally discarded on the streets in a hyperinflation. Because if you have debt, you need to go find the currency denominated in that debt to pay off the debt which you have. However, if that debt is ever paid off, the currency once again becomes worthless. So the debt must grow at an exponential rate to keep the currency alive. Otherwise, the pound, the dollar, the euro, the won, the yen all become worthless almost overnight. So to a central banker, exploding debt is a good thing. It's not bad to have the debt exploding at an exponential rate. It keeps the currency alive. Otherwise, they'll have to open up the gold vaults and start offering people gold. And they don't want to do that. They want to keep us using worthless paper. So to a politician, happy bankers are good, because keep in mind, any politician who's an actual reformer is going to blow up the monetary system. Blowing up the monetary system involves all banks blowing up at the same time around the world. That is going to be uncomfortable. That is going to make people angry. Politicians don't like their constituents to be angry, even if it's good for them. So politicians will do absolutely anything to make sure their constituents are not angry, and that requires keeping the banking system alive. Ergo, they will do anything to keep the debt growing exponentially. To a politician, they don't know this is not a conscious act, but the politician will do absolutely anything to keep the debt growing exponentially. Otherwise, all the banks explode. So the debt is GDP. The question is, the migrants arrive. Let me explain this. The migrants arrive en masse and immediately go on public benefits. The public services all go heavily into debt. The debt serves to provide artificial demand for the currency. Because the government is borrowing so much, there is a demand for the currency to provide the debt to fulfill all these public services. And then the government debt is part of the GDP calculation. GDP, which is a bullshit calculation, but people use it. So politicians can now confidently say endless waves of migrants on the public dole boost GDP. So the question, is this GDP? Yes, this is GDP. When migrants come in and sit on public welfare and go use the public health services, the government spending goes up, and GDP, the number GDP, likewise goes up. Once again, GDP is a terrible measure of the health of a people. In fact, there is no way to measure the health of a people. We should stop using all these measurements, but that's a point for another day. In the meantime, you can boost your real money. You can earn yields on your gold and silver paid to you in gold and silver with monetary metals. So use my landing page or email me that you were persuaded by me, and I get a small finder's fee. Link in the description. Once again, this is for the well-heeled. Please don't participate in monetary metals unless you have about 100 ounces of gold, because the buy-in is 10 ounces of gold, and you should never put more than 10% of your savings into any single investment. But if you have that much gold or more, or about 1,000 ounces of silver or more, and you want to participate in this, I think is a great way to boost some real money. Get a return on your gold and silver by putting it to use. So this, as I said before, this cannot last. Obviously, we are not actually made richer by this. Having all these people come and go on public benefits does not make anybody richer. And there's any other schemes, all the other schemes like the gender surgeries and, whatever else people are coming up with that bring yet more currency notes into existence. Currency notes floating around does not make people richer. That is a Keynesian fallacy. A financial bust followed by a return to sound money will stop the madness caused by inflation. It will stop all of it. This fever, all this weird stuff happening, people questioning their genders, the migrants arriving by the horde, wars in far off countries. All of this is going to, abruptly end, and everyone's going to be left kind of scratching their heads like, what the heck were we thinking? What were we doing? That was so weird, right? It's going to be almost like a fever breaking, or, a spell on you is suddenly broken and you've returned to reality. Now, after the bust, the political incentive, because once you're on sound, this entire thing is debt fueled. So once you're back on sound money, once you are trading in gold and silver, there is no more, the politicians are no longer driven to continue this debt cycle. They are now responsible to their constituents again, right? And the ones that were in office are going to be driven out like a nest of raccoons, and some new politicians are going to be brought in who are responsive to the people finally. After the bust, the political incentive to provide assistance to migrants will evaporate. It will evaporate overnight. I'm telling you, once we have we have to go through the bust. The bust is not going to be pleasant. Once we go through the bust, the desire to do all these ridiculous things is going to evaporate. It's not going to be there anymore. And so how to rectify the problems caused is another matter, because there you still have the waves of migrants from the third world is going to cease, but you're still going to have a bunch of people sitting in your countries, be it France, England, America, wherever. We still have the horde of foreigners who arrive. So the question is, what are we going to do about that? That's a topic beyond the scope of this video, but once we have returned to sound money, politicians will be responsive to the citizenry again, not before. Like I said, we will be poor. People are going to be shocked how poor the West actually is, but we will be free once more, and that's the important thing. We can, with freedom and free markets, we can rebuild, and we can rebuild quickly in a few years. So different societies, all the migrants who've arrived, different societies are going to have different solutions to the migrant populations, ranging from assimilation to expulsion. That's going to be up to the local peoples and things. The problem is, the transportation systems are going to be have gone down for quite some time. So I don't think, and the governments are going to be extraordinarily poor. I mean, the UK government, the American government, they're going to collapse by about 95 to 99%. So the ability to just round up all these people that are wandering around in the country is going to be absolutely minimal from a state perspective. It's going to be up to groups of people to decide how they want to get along with each other. Now, that could turn very negative. That could turn into Lebanon, where different there's armed gangs patrolling different neighborhoods that are constantly shooting at each other. But it could be, people decide to live in peace and trade with each other. Again, people might self-deport, or if the local population is sufficiently, motivated and powerful enough, they can probably expel the foreign colonies. Things might get violent in that kind of situation. I don't like to talk about that too much because A, I don't know, and B, it's an unpleasant topic. Maybe it needs to be done, maybe it doesn't. In the very long run, the cultures will meld as they always do. Whenever you have, in the 1066, this Norman horde invaded England, and suddenly there were a bunch of Normans walking around with the Anglo-Saxons. But today, no one thinks about, no one's sitting there going, oh, those Normans walking around Liverpool or whatever, everyone considers themselves English. So the same thing is going to be the same here. These cultures will eventually meld and assimilate. What that will do to things like the Church of England. Maybe there'll be, some Indian flair in the Church of England. Maybe Islam and Christianity will meld into some sort of new religion in the United Kingdom, where there's, it's mostly Christian with elements of Islam in there. Or maybe it's going to be like the Reconquista, where, there's a sudden, patriotic surge of Church of England and Protestantism. Everyone suddenly becomes extremely religious, and they force the foreigners to either leave or convert into Christianity, or maybe Islam wins and the reverse happens and everyone starts paying the jizya. So we'll see. This is all more longer term stuff, but in the end, the cultures will meld into some sort of conglomerate culture. That's going to take a lot of time, and it's probably not going to be pleasant in the near term. But we will see what happens in the long term. Anyway, so I hope that explains why this is happening. The important thing is why this is happening, because people I noticed people, especially the Lotus Eaters, keep loudly wondering aloud why their politicians are so unresponsive to them. The answer is because the money is fake. The pound is fake. When you go back onto the gold standard, when a pound is a pound of silver or some sort of denomination of gold, or whatever, a pound is a unit of silver or a unit of gold, then this need to bring in endless hordes of foreigners will evaporate. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but it is absolutely true. And if you watch my first 10 videos, you will understand why. All right, thank you for watching, everybody, and I will see you all next time. Take care.